Okay, I think this is working now. Yeah, all right. So, hello. Um, Let me just test this chat thing out. See if that works. So, doing something a little different tonight. And I'm on my laptop here. I'm over across the room from my normal desk area. And as you can see, I've got a camera here right on the table. I'm thinking about doing some soldering just for funsies. Doesn't look like the chat is really appearing on the stream. So what I'm doing is I'm using Streamlabs. Let me make sure the sound's okay. Yeah, it is. So I'm using Streamlabs OBS at the suggestion of Kevin Griffin today. So let me just put this out here that I'm actually on Twitch. Time for some soldering. So we'll see how this goes. I'm on a laptop here. It's not my normal setup. This webcam right here. I'm actually on a Mac. I'm running Windows on a Mac. This webcam sometimes gets flaky on Windows. I don't know why. I don't know. So I'll try it out. So far, Streamlabs OBS doesn't seem that much different than regular OBS, except for how easy it is to log into Twitch. I don't have to copy and paste the token, so that's nice. Anyway, so here we are. This is right here. Just put this away. My phone on mute here. So what you're seeing here, it's actually a electronics kit. So there's a website called AliExpress, which is from Alibaba, same company, and you can buy all kinds of stuff, all kinds of junk on that site. And one thing I've been kind of into recently, and maybe I'll show it to you here, if it shows up on the camera okay, is my brother, for Christmas a year or two ago, bought me this kit. It's called the Altair-Duino, and it's a replica of the Altair. Now, obviously, it's not. It's much thinner because it runs on a Raspberry Pi, but it simulates the Altair 8800 computer, all the LEDs and the blinking and the switches and everything. And it's a kit, so you have to solder it and put it together. And you know, as a kid, I used to do a ton of soldering of kits and electronics, things like that. My dad got me into it early on. You know, I was in ham radio for a while, so that was part of the culture there. But I haven't really done much with it until he got me that kit. And putting that kit together was a lot of fun. So maybe want to get back into kit building and pick up a few other kits and see what I can do. And you know, there's not a lot of great kit companies out there anymore, honestly. There's a couple companies, and there used to be like Heathkit and a bunch of other. Radio Shack made a lot of kits, things like that, but they don't really exist anymore. So there's a few you can find on Amazon and various DIY sites. But I thought I would give myself a little bit of a challenge and buy one of these really inexpensive kits off of AliExpress. And this is one that was like $1.50, something like that. Dave Glick on Twitter says, I read that as time for some smoldering, and I thought you must be having an exciting night. No, it's soldering, not smoldering. And by the way, if you are in the chat room there, just give me a hi, give me a hello, so I know you're there, and you can pay more attention to the chat room. But anyway, this is all I got with the kit. I ordered this metal detector kit. Thought it might be fun to put this together. It seemed like a pretty simple kit, but this is all I got. I got this envelope here, which if you ever use AliExpress, you're going to be familiar with this style of label here, customs declaration. And then inside that envelope, you see, just this. This is a circuit board and parts. No instructions, anything like that. So this is definitely going to be a challenge if this thing even works. And I'm not even sure how or where you're supposed to connect a battery to it. So we'll see how it goes. This will probably be a disaster, but it's you know, it's not so much the destination, it's the journey, I think, with these type of kits. So let me see if I can get a little bit better view here of the circuit board. So I imagine this here is the actual coil built into the PCB that's going to be detecting metal through a magnetic field, electromagnetic field. And fortunately, it looks like all the holes here are labeled. Like up here, you can see R2 is a 2K resistor going to those 2 points there. And we've got C3, that's probably a capacitor. C2, another R1 for a resistor 200K. And we got Q1 and Q2, which I'm not sure, those might be transistors. And there's a buzzer, so that's the little speaker that's going to make the noise, and an LED. So it seems relatively straightforward on where to put what. So right there you can see DC 3 to 5 volts. So maybe that's a USB connection. So let's take a look at these parts here. Just dump them all out. Okay, so that one right there, maybe that's the that fits right there, but that's an interesting connector for the DC input there. I'm not exactly sure how that's supposed to work, but looks like it fits right in there, so that's good. What else we got? So we've got, this is the buzzer, this is a little speaker, and it's in English here. Remove seal after washing. Remove seal after washing is what that says. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. I've got this light here. It's going to help me see better, but it's washing out the camera picture. I'm not sure if that's for me to wash or what, but that looks like it's going to go right in there. I'm not sure which one's positive, which one's negative. As you can see, that the leads are 2 different lengths, so it's definitely, the polarity matters there. So I'm going to figure that out. Here's a capacitor. It looks like I've only got the one capacitor here, which is interesting because it looks like there's 2 slots for a capacitor. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's okay. This is my only electrolytic capacitor. So that one is probably going to go, oh geez, I don't know. Have to figure that one out. But I've got these other capacitors. So here's 4 capacitors. These are little Formica deals. Just trying to see if they're labeled. Yeah, okay, so there we go. And again, I don't know if you can see this on that tiny camera, but this one says 104 on the capacitor, and on the circuit board you can see C4 104. So that's where that goes. And there are 2 of those 104s. The other one is, well, on the capacitor itself it says 22. On the board it says 222. So my guess is that those match up. So I've got those, check. And resistors. So I've got 3 resistors in the bag. And I'm going to have to look up the color codes on these because I used to know them when I was younger. I could tell you off the top of my head what these colors, what values they meant. But anyway, you can see resistor goes right here, resistor goes right there, and resistor goes right there. And there's 3 different resistors and 3 different values, so we're going to have to look those up at some point. Okay, and then I've got 3 transistors here. And on the board, looks like there's Q1, Q2, Q3, and I don't know if these, I assume these are all the same type of transistor. Let me get my lamp over here. So that says S9012H331, S9012H331. So these look like they're all fungible, so it doesn't matter which spot I put them in. Thankfully. Oh, I was wrong. S9018GF331. So that's going to be a problem. No, it's not going to be a problem. If you look on this board, by Q2 it says it says 9012 right there. Over here, 9012. This one does not say 9012, so I assume that's the odd one out. And we're just sort of making some guesses here. Alright, I've also got an LED. I'm going to have to look up, because LEDs are diodes, so it matters which direction you put them in. I can never remember if it's the long end in the tip of the arrow or the short end, but that's going to make a difference. So I'll look that up. 2 more parts here. I've got looks like a potentiometer, and I assume that's going to go right here, this little spot, and I'm guessing that's for some sort of calibration. Alright, one more thing, which is, looks like a switch. It's a momentary switch, or no, it's not a momentary switch. It's a push on, push off type switch. And that looks to be like a single pole, or a single throw triple pole sort of switch there. So I'm not really sure. If you look in the back here, you can kind of see this thing here looks like one side of a dice. That's what the switch connects to. It looks like it is connected to one of the transistors and the power source. Makes sense. So that just might be an on-off switch. I'm not really sure. We'll find out, I guess. Okay, so I've actually turned on my soldering iron already. I can show you the soldering iron here. It's just a really inexpensive one I got off Amazon. What I like about this one is the tip that came with it is very, very fine. And there's actually some other tips that came with it. But this one is really, really small. Kind of blurry in the camera there. But I really like this one. You know, I had a pencil type, another pencil type soldering iron before, but it had a pretty massive tip and it was kind of bent up. So I disposed of that one and got this new one. So it's relatively new, and I guess one thing I'm missing, if you've never soldered before, or if you have, I guess, very careful, this is hot right here. It should be hot. Yes, it is definitely hot. But this little sponge down here at the bottom, this is for if you get some solder on that sort of sticks to the tip of the pencil, you can just wipe that on the sponge to get the solder off and keep that tip clean. Now the thing is, right now this is completely dry. It needs to have a little bit of moisture for it to be effective. So I'm going to go get a few drops of water on this and I will be right back. Okay, fortunately I've got a convenient little sink here in the basement with me. So there we go, got a little bit of water on that sponge, so ready for cleaning. Oh hey, Code Bytes TV, it's Calvin. Thanks for joining, Calvin, for some late night soldering. You ever done any soldering before, Calvin? Like I was saying earlier, I used to do a ton as a kid, and I've sort of picked it up as a hobby recently. Re-picked it up as a hobby, I guess, recently. Anyway, I'm putting together this really cheap metal detector kit that I found on AliExpress. It has no instructions, no printed instructions anyway, other than what I can divine from the board itself. So we can just go ahead and put the parts on in any sort of order that makes sense. I probably want to start with some of the tougher ones, I think. So let's get the transistors out of the way. So this one here is the 9012. This one here is the 9012. So this is the non-9012 one. It is the, my eyesight is failing, 9018. So I'm going to assume that the shape of this white outline here indicates which way I should put on this transistor. So I'm saying it roughly matches the curve of that, so we'll just poke those three right into that hole there. Okay, push it most of the way, not all the way in. And you can see they sort of stick out the bottom there. There's three little legs. And the way I do it is I just kind of bend them so that they'll stay in there while I'm soldering. So gently bend those legs a little bit. It doesn't have to be all the way down because we're going to clip those off here shortly, but you can kind of see what I did. One leg here, one leg here, one leg here. So it's kind of the shape of an imperial shuttle a little bit. If I could get even more nerdy. Okay, and so now I'm going to solder these points. I'll just leave it right here flat on the table. That should be good enough. This is my solder. I got this at Micro Center. The soldering iron that I bought came with a little sample of solder, but it wasn't really enough to do much with. And I had some old solder laying around the house somewhere, but it was a pretty thick gauge. Yeah, this right here actually is what came with the iron, and it's just a little bit thicker than I really wanted it to be for this kind of really crowded PCB. So just pull a little bit out there. You can kind of see the difference in the thickness there. So this is good for boards that aren't quite as crowded, or parts of the board where it doesn't matter as much. This is a little sample. I don't know if this came with the pen or what, but that's another little sample of solder. But this is, picked this up from Micro Center. Just a tube of solder. And here we go. So these points are all very close together. This is going to be kind of tough to see even as I do it. Camera a little closer. Don't want to get too close because I won't have any room to actually solder. But alright, here we go. So the trick, this is something my dad taught me, is to not necessarily put the solder right against the pen. Sometimes you have to, but to heat up the wire and the contact itself with the pen, and then apply the solder to the heated elements, and the solder will just kind of melt on there. And this is really, really small. But if you've soldered before, you know that solder kind of has a little bit of mind of its own sometimes. Okay, there we go. Alright. So this is called a joint, and again, kind of hard to see, a little out of focus there, but it's a good looking joint, and it's just so little space between this spot and the spot in the middle. But you can tell it's a good joint because of the way it looks. You kind of get used to that. It's not too shiny, and it's kind of, I don't know, you kind of know it when you see it. Good connection, and it's really firm in there. So there's one down. I'll tackle the one on the outside next. So again, we supply heat to the contact. And just sort of let the solder kind of find its way on there. Just a tiny bit. That one's pretty good. Now, if I had a working multimeter, I could check this to make sure it's not shorted out. Here's my multimeter, and I unfortunately decided to leave this in a toolbox and got a little bit of damage on it, so it's not functional right now. That's okay, because again, it's all about the journey, not the destination. This kit was $1.50, so worst case, I think we had a fun time relaxing and soldering a little bit, and we're out $1.50 worth of a kit. So I really need to get around to getting myself a multimeter one of these days. So let's try the middle one here. This looks like the toughest one on the whole board. Okay, I think we got it there. It's just such a slim margin. It looks good to me. Okay. So the thing with solder is you got to apply heat to get it to work, but it cools very, very quickly. Calvin says nice. What's the nice part? Exactly. So anyway, I get these feet to stand back up again, and then I'll just trim off the excess with my little side cuts. So there's one, and two, and three. Okay, there we go. The cost of the kit is nice. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. It's, you know, you get what you pay for, I guess. And I'm still not even sure how. This is what's supposed to supply the power to the kit. It goes on there. I don't know what kind of connector this is. I mean, it looks like it's a couple of screws in there, and you just connect it up to, you know, some random power supply. I don't know, so I don't know about that. Okay, let's do the other transistors here. So these are 9012, and on the back there, again, you probably can't see it, but that's a 9012. So we'll again put those three legs into the three holes, push it down. It's just about even with that one. And I wonder if I can turn off the autofocus on this camera. I don't know if it's going to help or not. Configure video properties, camera control. You know, let's take autofocus off. See if that helps. Okay. Alright, so we got in the back there, and we'll again just make it a little, fold it down to a Y pattern so we can hold it in place while it's soldering. Okay. And whoops. And let's do it again. Let's try the outside this time. Why not? Oh, see, now I got a little solder on the pen, so this is a good time to show the actual cleaning process. Sometimes it's a pain. I'll sort of wipe it on there, and you can hear a little sizzle noise as you do that. There we go. A nice clean pen. Okay. Heat up the joint first. Let the solder just kind of fall in there. Just a tiny bit, and I think that'll be good enough. Okay. Try the outside one. Hope my voice is getting picked up okay. Looks like it is. I could turn this a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Hey, there you go. This little bar here is what's holding my camera above the table. Try going the other way. Just kind of rest the pencil right in there as best you can. And sneak in the solder. Just a tiny, tiny bit. Okay. Got some on the pencil again, so we'll clean it off. Neat setup, Calvin says. Well, it's kind of jury-rigged it together. This is kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing. I didn't want to move my whole soldering bench over to my computer for a number of reasons. So I figured I would drag this old webcam out of a closet and put it to use. This one's being a real pain. Oh, let's see. Sometimes this will happen. The solder will stick to it. Joint. Just gotta apply a little more heat. Okay, looks good. Looks like I didn't quite short it out. Let's go for the middle one. This is the tough one. Just a quick little tap. Nope, didn't quite do it. Just a quick little tap. I got a little bit on the pencil. Maybe I can use that. There we go. Sometimes you can kind of push it around a little bit with the pencil. Okay, I think we're good there. So now we'll just let it cool a little bit and then cut off the excess. I find this part satisfying, just to these little bits of wire sticking out, and just take these tiny little side cuts and just trim them off. Just a quick little trim. Okay, there we go. Alright. What are we doing on time here? I've been going for about a half an hour. One more transistor. Put it right in here. No particular reason other than transistors are difficult, so if I'm going to mess up, let's get it out of the way early, right? Another little Y shape. You can't really see that. There we go. Right here. Another Y shape. I guess that one's okay. Not great, but I'll try this one. Again, the multimeter would really help here. Also known as a volt-ohm meter. Making a mess. Try to push that excess down there. See if that's enough. I don't think it's enough. You know, I kind of wanted to get some of those like jeweler's glasses. They'll attach to your glasses, kind of like magnifying glasses things. But I'm not really sure what they're called. And I looked for a few different things on like Amazon, and they didn't really look like it would do the trick. You can get little like alligator clips that come with a little magnifying glass. Oh, just don't be stuck, don't be stuck. Oh, that one's stuck. There we go. Okay, I think we're good there too. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. Hold these up. Calvin says, yeah. Yeah to the glasses thing. The thing with the ones that attach to my own glasses is that I can just move my head around. Okay, we have some more wire to clip off here. Whereas the magnifying glasses, you know, if I want to take a slightly different angle, I got to stop and readjust. You know, they might be in my way, that sort of thing. So I don't know. So there we go. 3 parts on. 3 transistors. Hopefully those are on correctly. Alright. So the difficult ones would be this point would be this buzzer and the electrolytic capacitor and the LED, because those have to go on a very specific way onto the board. So I'll have to look those up later, which way they go on. The resistors, I got to look up the color codes on those too, so those are going to be tricky. These guys right here. They're kind of tough to even see some of the colors on them. Like that one looks to be a red, black, gold. This is a red, black, red, gold. This one is a, oh geez, I can't really, looks like maybe red, purple? Yeah, if I remember correctly, the gold is kind of like a multiplier, like by 1,000 or by 10,000 or something like that. And the first few colors are the significant digits. But it's been a long time. Like I said, I used to know those by heart. Okay, so let's, in the meantime, the next tough one might be this switch. Because there are 6 holes, and they're very close together. I don't think it matters which direction this goes on, so like this is just as good as if I turn it. It'll be just as good. But there are 6 spots there. And the trick is going to be to hold this in place while I solder. I'm going to use a little bit of gravity and the table, kind of wedge it in there. Once I get like one of these points soldered, ought to be good enough to hold it on for the other 5. So let's give it a shot. Let's try this one right here. This is where having the holder would come in handy. There we go. You sort of wipe the solder on there. And you know, it tends to kind of want to find the joint and settle in around it. So I've got 1 point on there, so I can shake this around and the switch doesn't go. Gravity always gets me down, says Calvin. Oh boy. I'm going to have to take away your privileges for that one. These capacitors out of the way. Try the opposite corner one just to get a little stability. So, Calvin, I know you've been doing some, not electronics work, but you've been working on some, like restoring some old hand tools recently. Maybe you want to say some more about that? I think you were working on like some vintage, like planers or sanders, something along those lines. Might be something interesting for you to, if you could pull off a camera rig to stream some of that process. Or maybe just record like a YouTube video sort of thing. Still working on them very old hand planes. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Do you intend to restore them just as like a collector's piece, or do you want to intend to sell them, or are they like heirloom sort of deal? So I've got 3 of the joints soldered here. Just a tough one in the middle here. Going to try to use at least one of them. So you're going to restore them to the point of being able to use them, doing some woodworking. That's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, looks pretty good. No shorts there, at least not visible. Just kind of flying blind without my multimeter. Probably just keep them all. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Might be the sort of thing you could take on Antiques Roadshow someday. See if they're, you know, got some collector value to them. That one's not quite on there. Got one stuck again. Okay. Looks like still no short. I'm on my phone, getting ready to die, gonna bail and go to bed. Cool, man. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. One more joint here for the switch. Yep, talk to you later, man. Alright, got all 6 joints, so now it's firmly fastened to the board, and I can press and depress the switch. There's a little bit of excess on here I could trim off, so we'll give that a shot. Okay, pretty happy with that. I'm thinking I will put in some capacitors and maybe finish out the night on that note. So I got 4 capacitors. I've got the 2-2, and which I assume, as I said earlier, probably goes to the 222 spot on the board. Push that in and we'll just do a little fold like I did with the transistor, but there's only 2 of them. Okay, there's one of them. I'll probably do 2 at a time. With these capacitors, it does not matter which direction you put them in. They're not polarized in any way. So if I put them backwards, no harm done. Okay. Okay, it's a little easier because they're a little farther apart, a little more room for error. And there's one. And there's 2. Very nice. That's cool for a second. And there they go. Right there, those little orangey brown deals. We've got 4 more wires to trim off. Little satisfying wire snips. And 1 more. Okay, there we go. Easy. Easy peasy with the capacitors. Alright. 2 more capacitors. These are the 104s. The 104 is also a code, and I think you use that to figure out the capacitance, which is measured in farads, typically microfarads. I forget. And in this case it does not matter because the board is labeled pretty clearly. So just slot that one in there. There's one. There's the other one right on top of that switch. Okay, and here we go, 4 more joints, and that'll be it for tonight. I'm getting my pencil all messy here. There we go. One down. that one doesn't look like a good joint right there. So I'm going to have to reheat that, and hopefully it'll settle in, make a nice clean joint. I think that one's much better. Okay. Use my pen knife here. This one's kind of hard to get a finger under. There we go. Four more leads to strip off here. One, two, three, four. And there we have it. So we put on 1, 2, 3, 4 capacitors, 1, 2, 3 transistors, and 1 switch. So next time I need to figure out the values of these resistors. So I need to figure out the color codes, what they correspond to. So there's a 2K, and these are ohms. That's 2,000 ohms, 200,000 ohms, and looks like 470 ohms on this one. And I need to figure out which direction the LED goes on there. So LED has, it's a diode, so it's basically, think of it like a positive and negative. And you can see the LED itself has leads that are 2 different lengths. And I just need to figure out which one goes to which side of the arrow. I need to figure out how to actually get power to this, because I think the next time I do this, the kit will be finished. So I need to figure out how to actually connect this to something. And electrolytic capacitor, this is C5. It's going to go right here. It's also sensitive to direction. You can see it's got 2 different size leads, just like the LED, which is a diode. The D stands for diode, light emitting diode. And also did the same thing for the buzzer. You figure which one's positive and negative. Based on the orientation of the label, and the fact there's a plus on the top here, I would say it probably corresponds to the plus on the board. It just goes on like that. But yeah, I guess that's probably what it is. It's that plus symbol up there. So that one I probably got figured out. But that's it. And then if I can figure out a way to get some electricity to this, then maybe we can test it out and see if this actually detects metal and makes a buzzing noise when it gets close to some metal. All right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for watching this video. Normally I plan to do a lot of coding, like programming type stuff, but you know, in the evenings I'll do some hobby stuff like this kit. You know, I'll also do some gaming. Oh, I forgot about the potentiometer. That goes on there too. That's an easy one. You know, I do some gaming sometimes. I have a VR headset. Maybe I can figure out how to do some live streaming of that. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, check out during the day. My normal schedule has to do with coding. Like earlier today, I did some Kafka and database stuff, some streaming between databases, and yeah. All right. Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you have a good evening.